human beings on the planet internet. I am back for 100 days of persuasion hacks to land corporate client, and I am super excited to be sharing with you today something about focusing. Now, that is not, I'm not going to bore you with telling you that you have to focus on your work, but actually, I'm going to talk to you about why it is super important for you to understand the focusing effect that can have a massive impact on whether you can sell to corporate clients and how long it will actually take for you to sell to them. So, just in case we haven't met, I'm Miriam Gilbert, founder of the Impactfulness Lab, and I'm the business strategist that will help coaches, consultants, and authors, speakers, basically service providers like you land high-paying corporate clients in as little as 4 to 30 days. But let's dive in, because I promised you the 100 days of persuasion to land corporate clients trainings are going to be super fast. They're going to be super quick. I'm going to be sharing my screen in just 1 second. And because I am using Restream as well as going live to a couple of locations, I might be a little slow seeing your chat, but say hello anyway if you are there. Leave me a comment if you catch it in the replay, and let's get going. Well, I should also say today I'm actually doing something which is a little bit scary because I'm trying out a software that is new to myself, but hopefully gives you a really good experience to learn all about how to use the focusing effect bias to land high-paying corporate clients. Well, the first question that comes up here is, who are happier? Who do you think is happier, Californians or Midwesterners? Okay, you might go, what? Has she lost the plot? And I promise you, I have not, because understanding the answer to this question will actually help you sell to corporate clients faster. Now, let me take you into what all of this is about. You see, Nobel Prize winner Daniel Kahneman asked the question in a study back in 1998, who is happier, Californians or Midwesterners? Now, the response to the study was overwhelmingly, oh, Californians must be happier. Sure, I mean, they have the laid-back lifestyle, they have the beach, the sunshine. It's got to be them, right? But actually, the reality is nothing like that, because in reality, there is no noticeable real difference between the residents in either of the locations. Their own happiness ratings are pretty much the same, so they are as happy as each other. And that is because when the participant people who took part in the study, they forgot about other things that are important, apart from the beach, the sunshine, and the laid back. But other things are also very important when you decide whether you have a happy life. And things such as, for example, a low crime rate is quite important. But in California, the crime rate is a lot higher than in the Midwest. Another thing, natural disasters like fires and earthquakes, they're relatively common in California, but not as much in the Midwest. So these are other factors which influence how people rate their happiness. And I will come to how this applies to landing corporate clients in a moment. Trust me, just stick with me. You see, what has happened? This is the science behind it. What has happened is that there is this cognitive bias called the focusing effect bias. And the participants in that study, they had fallen for this bias. This is a cognitive bias, so something that goes on in your brain. It's like a mental shortcut, a bit of a mental shortcut that takes you into the wrong direction, a bit of a brain fart. And this mental shortcut of the focusing effect bias, that means that we focus on just a few aspects of a situation, any given situation, and we ignore the rest. And you know what? We do this all the time. We do that when we go shopping. We do that when we make decisions. It's something that helps us, operate in daily life. But it is very important to notice when we do it. You see, the focusing effect means we place a lot of importance on just a few factors of whatever we're presented with. That can be a situation, that can be an event. It can be a situation like, you going shopping. It can be an event like a formal event, or, you're meeting up with friends, or you hearing about something new happening. It could be about a decision as well. Should you buy a new house, or should you do something else? And when we fall for the focusing bias effect, we end up looking at just a few factors and we forget about the bigger picture. But you know what? Let me give you a couple of real life examples. So, one real life example for it is if you're buying a new house. Now, I know from experience and from a lot of people I see as well that people get really excited if they see a beautiful house with maybe a lovely garden, lots of room, lots of space, and they just fall in love with it. But as in the picture here, you might want to consider other things as well. You might want to consider what the neighborhood is like. What are the amenities in the area? Do you have to drive everywhere? Can you walk? What are the neighbors like? All of those factors are really, really important. Yet a lot of people see the house first, fall in love, and just go like, right, I don't care about the other stuff, because they fall for the focusing effect bias. Another example is you might read about your new restaurant in your area that gets rave reviews. Everybody tells you that this is a place to go, and you book. You go along because you want to, without actually having really considered whether you like the kind of food that they serve. And I will be honest, that has happened to me not too long ago, where I was so excited because we came out of lockdown and, you can't go into restaurants again. So I booked a restaurant that, yes, the reviews were amazing. And then when we arrived, I realized that all the dishes they were very meaty. And even though I do meat, it was too much for me. So I didn't actually have anything to choose from that I liked. I fell for the focusing bias effect. So let me give you a few examples, and this is where we come back round to how this applies to corporate world. How it fits into our main focus, landing corporate clients, right? You see, in the corporate world, it is so common. I promise you, it is so common. I saw that all the time, and I still see it all the time, that people focus on the immediate, the thing that's in front of their eyes, but they forget about the long-term strategy. So we all know that generally organizations, they have a strategy cycle, and they vary. They might be annual, might be every 3 years, whatever, but they spend time and effort on creating the strategy. Normally it involves some form of PowerPoint, and then they do some speeches to the wider community, their wider organizational community, and there might even be roadshows where they tell everybody about the strategy. So it's really, to them, the strategy is really important, as it should be, right? It should be important. But then in the day-to-day, many leaders complain that their people spend far too much time focusing on immediate issues, firefighting with, trouble, and they completely overlook the wider, bigger strategy that they have just spent so much time on building. And that strategy, as a consequence, moves, into the far distant future and is never really realized until the next round for the next strategies. Have any of you ever come across this? Let me have a quick hop into the comments. And oh, yes, because I can see, yes, absolutely. People see this all the time. That's right. So even in the day-to-day life, even in daily interaction, the focusing effect bias shows up. So, for example, every manager that you speak to, unless they're complete assholes, everyone will say that, yes, they totally agree that it's much better to have conversations with people directly, pick up the phone, or if you're in an office, then, go over and actually speak to them, and that it's very important to delegate. Yet, in the heat of a deadline, honestly, I see this all the time. They go back to firing up emails everywhere and starting to micromanage issues. And this is all because they only focus on solving the immediate performance issue. They don't think about the longer term goal of, for example, building an effective team, which will be so much more effective if they stop the micromanaging and if they actually communicate with them, right? Now, I did promise you that you can actually use this effect for landing corporate clients, and I want to share with you how you do this. There's a few steps involved, but the first thing, which is really there, is to use the focus and effect when to sell corporates, is to keep it simple. It's KISS. That's it. Yes, it's keep it simple. So keep your marketing and messaging simple. Stupid is the other S in there, just in case you didn't know. That means you should not list out all the things that you can help clients with. Every single minute area you could help them solve their issues, every benefit you could possibly bring. You don't do that. Instead, focus their attention on a few well-chosen factors, because that is so much more effective. If you give them a long shopping list, they will, they will lose focus and they will not really know what to do and feel overwhelmed. Instead, focus their attention to those few factors, because the reality is your prospects, your corporate prospects, they are looking for solutions that they believe will make their lives better in some ways. And they actually want to learn about how you can do that. So give them those things. Now, there are 3 steps actually applying the focusing effect bias when you sell to corporates. And the first one, it's no big surprise, but I'm still surprised of how few people do it. First one is to understand the main challenge your prospect has and what their angle is. Now, this one is important. So the main challenge that you can help them with might be, say, employee turnover. Now, depending on who you actually talk to, they will have a different angle, a different perspective on this challenge. So, for example, the operations director might say, oh, I can't keep losing staff because I'm not hitting my delivery targets. Whereas the HR director might say, oh, I can't keep losing staff because it's really expensive to keep recruiting new people. And yet the branding director might say, we can't keep losing stuff. It makes us look really, really bad if, we get bad reviews and people are leaving in droves all the time. So depending on who you talk to, you need to understand what is their main challenge and what is their angle. Step number 2 is you focus on a few components of what you do and you present the most distinctive features of how you help them. The thing that lets you stand out, the thing that lets you be different from all the other ones. Because trust me, you are different. And then the third step is you help them connect the dots on how the work that you do will help solve the issues that they are facing. So if you're speaking to the HR person and you are somebody who deals with employee engagement, you show them you show them the stats, you show them the research, you show them your case studies of how improving employee engagement helps retaining employees. If you are speaking to the ops director, and let's say you are somebody who works with productivity and again, let's say engagement, you show that how people who are engaged are a lot more productive, and so on. You get what I'm saying, right? So it's really important to connect the dots for them. Never, ever, ever leave dots open for them to connect themselves, because they probably end up with another brain fart as well. Let me bring this to life though. Let me give you an example of a wellness coach. At the moment, all things that improve the employee experience that have to do with health and well-being is super, super hot for corporates. So as a wellness coach, you might say that you help reducing stress when working from home to reduce the risk of illness, that you ensure a healthy work-life balance, which avoids employees starting to feel resentment again towards their employers, and that you help preventing burnout while staff are balancing new multiple responsibilities like work, uh, new responsibilities at home, caring for others, and various other challenges that we are now facing. So you might say these things. In theory, there are many, many other things that you could say. You could talk about the physical impact of stress that you help to eliminate. You could talk about other aspects of mental health. You could talk about performance impacts. You can talk about how stressed employees are likely to, produce poor quality work, for example. You can talk about the impact on employer branding. And the issue is, I see people actually do that in their marketing. They're giving this big long list of all the things they do, and it's a turnoff because too many factors dilute your message. Instead of giving so many factors, make sure your message is targeted on the main worries that your prospect has. And that way you use the focusing effect bias to your advantage. Okay, well, I hope, let me see, I kept that to, yes, a bit longer than I meant, but anyway, so if you want to find out if you could work with corporates or how to work with corporates, then either DM me on your favorite platform, wherever you see this, and I will be in touch. I'd be very happy to have a no strings attached chat. Uh, Alternatively, you can book a complimentary Can you work with diagnostic call. It's a 45-minute assessment to check if what you do is something that corporates are looking for and what is the earning potential. You can find it here at bit.ly/LCC diagnostic call. And I will be back tomorrow with more tips and hacks on how to use persuasion and cognitive behavioral science to land high-paying corporate clients.